Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. What a great funky beat, right? Just makes you want to swing your head and smile a little bit before we get started. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is John Shoemaker from the Department of Educational Technology, and we're here today to share a little bit more about your smart panels and getting started with them and using some of the features, especially during distance learning. Before we get started, the first thing that I do want to lovely celebrate, my colleague brought up and found this week, is that we have hit over 4,000 subscribers. So that is awesome. In just 6 months, 4,000 of you have decided to hit that subscribe button down below, which is totally amazing, blowing our minds. We totally appreciate it for everything that you've done and following us. We love that. So thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching us on the recording, thank you for being there as well. Before we get started, just a little bit more housekeeping. As a reminder, this session is being recorded. It is going to be live on YouTube right now, and then the recorded session is at the same exact place that you get to see the live version. We're also on Twitter, so feel free to tweet us at ETPBCPD. It's a whole mouthful. It's EdTechPBCPD, ETPBCPD, and tag our EdTech account, which is at EdTechPBC. In addition, like I just said below, please feel free to subscribe down below. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, thumbs up this video to hopefully let the YouTube algorithm pick us up and share with even more people who have smart boards in their classrooms. In the chat box over there at the right, we have moderators. They're there with a little wrench. We have a lot of our group from the smart trainers in there who are not training, but they will be throwing some links in the chat. They'll be throwing some information in the chat to help you. And even on the replay, the chat box is there. You can use it to communicate. If you've never used it before, you do have to actually click in there and say, yes, you want to make an account. But otherwise, you can then refresh the page and you'll be able to chat with us, which is awesome. So with that, I'm going to go and get started by bringing up our special guest today. We first have Akea and Asha with us today. Ladies, thanks for joining us again, and I will let you two take it away.
Thanks, John.
Hi, everyone. This afternoon on today's webinar, you have Akea and I. My name is Asha Evans. I am a smart training specialist dedicated to working with you all here in Palm Beach County. I mostly work with schools in the Central West Palm area and then some schools a little west of that. But I'll be on this webinar today showing you how you can use your smart panel and some of the tools to enhance your blended learning environment. If you would like to contact me, I can be reached at ashaevans@smarttech.com. I'm also on Twitter at @GetSmartWithAE, and my contact info will be dropped in the chat.
As it's been mentioned, my name is Akea Shepard. I'm also a smart training specialist. I am dedicated to supporting you all and integrating the use of this technology in your classroom in meaningful ways. And I'm really excited that I could be here today for this webinar or for this recording, whichever you're viewing us. And my contact information is here. It's my first and last name at smarttech.com. So Akea Shepard at smarttech.com. And my Twitter handle is at mxsmartgirl.
Awesome. Thank you, Akea. So with today's webinar, as I mentioned, we'll be showcasing how you can use your smart panel and some of its tools to enhance your blended learning environment. So what we're taking a look at here is the agenda for today. In today's webinar, you're going to learn how to bring static documents to life by utilizing Smart Ink. Smart Ink is a really neat tool that allows you to annotate over websites and presentations. We'll also be showcasing Smart Ink Document Viewer. So for those of you that use PDFs during instruction, Smart Ink Document Viewer is definitely a tool that you're going to want to use because it allows you to annotate over those PDFs and also allows you to save what you mark up. We're also going to be teaching you how to utilize your Smart Panel for blended learning. And you're going to absorb all of this information through demonstration, and then you'll also have the opportunity to participate hands-on. So if you are watching this webinar live, we will give you the opportunity to make sure you have your panel set up. In the event that you are watching this recording, no worries, because you can just listen along and follow along as you listen to the recording. At the end, we'll provide you with some resources to help you along your SMART journey because we know that there's going to be a lot of information shared. So we want to make sure that when it's all over, you know where to look if you need a refresher. Alrighty, so are you ready to SMART? We like to include this slide to make sure that you're all set up for today's hands-on session. And so the first question is, are you viewing this webinar from a device that is not your Smart Panel? We ask that you view it from a device that is not your Smart Panel. That way your Smart Panel is free for you to use. Which leads me into the next question, are you in school next to your Smart Panel? Again, this session is being recorded, so if you're not next to your Smart Panel right now, when you do get next to your Smart Panel, you can play this webinar and then follow along with the demonstrations that we provide. Is your Smart Panel plugged in, and do you have access to your keyboard and pens? In today's session, we will be on the computer side of your Smart Panel, and on the computer side, your keyboard and pens are very important. In the event that you are not able to plug in your panel or your keyboard and pens are locked in the back, please reach out to your tech and they should be able to help you out with that. Our next question, can you turn on the Smart Panel screen? So when you're facing your Smart Panel, you'll see the buttons for it on the far right side. Your power button is either going to be the last button that you have or the first button that you have. Simply pressing that button will turn on your Smart Panel screen. And then to wrap up our Are You Ready to Smart preparation, our last question is, can you switch to your onboard computer? As I mentioned, in today's webinar, we are going to be functioning on the computer side of your panel, so it's important that you're actually able to access that side. In the event that you've never ventured over to the computer or you didn't even know that there was a computer back there, we have this visual on screen that shows you exactly where that computer is. When you're facing your panel, on the right side of your panel, if you just take a peek around the corner of the right side, you'll see this black box. In that black box is where your onboard PC is. Now, that onboard PC should have a little power button that you have access to. And if you just press that power button, that turns on the computer that's attached to your Smart Panel. Once your computer is on, in order for you to actually use it, you want to make sure that you're on HDMI 1. So again, once your computer is on, you want to make sure that you're on HDMI 1. In case you don't know how to get to HDMI 1, we have this visual here of the source button. The source button is the second button you have on your panel, and it's usually marked with a blue dot so that it stands out a bit. All you need to do is press that source button and then go to HDMI 1. So again, during this webinar, we do encourage you to participate as we go along and you're watching us. So I'll give you a few moments to get your computer set up in the event that you didn't already have it set up. Once you are on HDMI 1, you'll see a screen that looks like this one. This screen allows you to log in by pressing Enter on that wireless keyboard that comes with your panel, or you can just swipe up on the bottom of the screen. To sign in, use the same credentials you used to sign into your teacher desktop. So while I'm giving you time for that, I'll share some reasons why you would want to venture over to the computer side. As you may or may not know, in addition to the computer on your panel, you have access to a digital whiteboard. And with that digital whiteboard, you're able to do quite a few things, but you're not able to go on the internet. However, when you switch over to the computer side of your panel, you can access the internet. You can also access your files. So if you have any documents saved in your My Documents folder, you're able to pull them up right on your panel. And since you have access to the internet, that means you have access to Google Drive, Google Meet, Google Classroom. A lot of things are at your fingertips here on the computer side of the panel. So hopefully everyone is signed in now. And what we're looking at here is the icon for Smart Ink. So once you're signed in to the computer side of your panel, one tool that you have available to you is Smart Ink. Smart Ink is what allows you to annotate over websites, PDFs, and presentations. And in just a few moments, Akea is going to demonstrate exactly how you could use Smart Ink in your classroom. Now, with Smart Ink, it appears as a little icon on your desktop. And when you click on it, it expands to showcase you have pen tools, you have a toolbox, and you have a section for favorites. And like I mentioned, Akea will be showcasing just how you could use Smart Ink in your classroom. One way you could test out Smart Ink to make sure that it is on your panel is just to pick up your pen and attempt to write on the desktop. If a little sticky note appears with ink on it, that lets you know that Smart Ink is ready to go. In addition to Smart Ink, you also have access to Smart Ink Document Viewer. Smart Ink Document Viewer is a PDF viewer like none other. With Smart Ink Document Viewer, you're able to mark up or annotate your PDFs, and your ink actually becomes a part of the document. So if there were a passage that you were reading with your students, or maybe a worksheet that you wanted to complete with them, Smart Ink Document Viewer would be your best friend and would allow you to do that. Once you mark it up, you are also able to save it. So let's say you did some really great work with your students and you want them to be able to access it as a resource. You could then save it and send it to them via email or even upload it to Google Classroom. To access Smart Ink Document Viewer, there are a few steps involved. And in just a few moments, Akea is going to be able to showcase just how you access Smart Ink Document Viewer on your panel. This screen here just gives you a preview of what those steps are, but I'm sure you'll understand it much better once it's actually in practice. So, Akea, are you ready to demonstrate Smart Ink and Smart Ink Document Viewer for us?
I am ready for you all to venture into my world of me on my smartboard. So guys, what you're about to look at is me visually standing in front of my smartboard and my screen. So the first thing that you see on my screen is my desktop here, but you also see this circle icon that Asha mentioned, and that's your Smart Ink dynamic toolbar. It just looks like a circle with a pen in the center, and it's small. And if you're on this big smartboard like me, sometimes you need to back up to find it. But once you locate it, if you tap the middle, it opens up to where you have more options. So again, to make this menu come up, you do need to pick up your pen and touch your pen to the board at least one time, and it'll make the menu pop up. So when you're on your desktop here and you don't have up a website, you don't have up a document, if you were to start writing, what comes up is a nice, handy sticky note. And as you can see, as I continue to write, it expands. So it's an expandable sticky note. It comes up anytime you just start writing on your desktop. So it's a great tool when you need just a real quick empty space to solve out a problem, brainstorm, or write some things for your students to see. So the first thing I want to point out here with our dynamic toolbar is that I'm writing currently in black ink. Is black ink the only thing that I have available with Smart Ink? Not at all. So when you tap your menu, we have our three segments: the pens, the tools, and your favorites. I'm going to start off in the pens. So as I tap this, up top, I have an option for a pen, and then next to it, I have an option for an highlighter. To the far right, there are 3 dots that give me even more options. So I have more options when I come to the far right. Besides a pen and a highlighter, there's a lot more here. Below that, I have my color options. So I'm going to switch back to my pen so that you can see there's 4 colors displayed here. But once again, if I go to the far right, I have an option for more colors. Here on our last row, we have line options where you can see I can change my line thickness. And on the far right, I have more line options, such as maybe a dashed line for handwriting, or a dashed line with like the arrow or the dot at the end, or maybe I'm doing maps, or maybe I'm doing a timeline. So we have a lot of different options. In this view, I really encourage you to not be afraid to pick the option on the far right, because there's a lot more than what you see at first. Also, I like to mention that to make this go away, to close the menu, you tap the center. This may automatically happen after a few seconds, or if you want your menu to stay up and the way for you to make it go away is you tap it, is you'd use this thumbnail on the top right-hand corner. So up here, I currently have this pinned. I just unpinned it. So after some time of me not interacting with that menu, it'll disappear on its own. If you want it to stay up, you're going to pin it, and then when you tap the center, it goes into a smaller menu mode. So I showed you that you have different pens, different colors, and different line thickness. And I really want to go into detail about those different pens, because that's one thing that's so unique about Smart Ink is you have a pen and a highlighter, but a lot more. Some of them are self-explanatory, like a crayon, for example, shows up in a way that reminds us of a crayon. There's also a paintbrush in there. A few ones that might need some explanation are the calligraphy pen. You know, it makes your handwriting look a lot nicer. This is my favorite one to write in. But have you seen any instructional uses for like the calligraphy pen, Asha?
So in addition to just giving your handwriting a nice little flair, the calligraphy pen is also useful if you are drawing symbols, or I know in like different foreign languages, their communication or their language involves the drawing of symbols, and the calligraphy pen is pretty useful for that.
So to erase your Smart Ink, you just take anything larger than your finger or this pen, and it'll create an eraser. So if I took like 2 fingers and pressed them together here, there's my little eraser. If I took my entire flat hand and wiped, there's my large eraser. My favorite way to erase, though, involves using a cloth. I use the same microfiber cloth that I clean my board with, and I fold it, and I wipe off my ink with that cloth, because then I get to multitask. So
Asha or Akea, we seem to have lost your audio. Where did you go? Did you unplug?
there we go. Can you guys hear me now?
There we go. Now we hear you.
All right. This headset has a little button that I must have bumped into. Thanks. What's the last thing that you guys heard?
We heard you erasing the board, and you were just about to, I guess, explain another pen type or something.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So we know how to erase, we know how to write, and we know how to access our different pens. The next pen that I wanted to highlight was the Creative pen. So in here, it's the Creative pen. And what's different about this is when I look at my color options now, they're not red, blue, green, they're symbols. And what happens is I'm able to actually drag these symbols and write in smiley faces if I wanted to. And if I wanted to be able to see that smiley face more clear, I could just use a thicker option, and I could write here in smiley faces. And there are a lot of different options. And when you click your option on the far right, there's more. So if you wanted to do plants, so you're doing a lesson on plants, you can do that. There's stars, there's flowers, and also there's a plus sign, which means that you can click that plus sign and it takes you to your own files, where here you can drag in any images that you might have and use it to creatively write with other things other than just colors. So that's a lot of fun. And another pen I want to highlight is the shape pen. So the shape pen is great for every teacher, every educator, honestly, every person. So when we see it, we might first think elementary, like, hey, this is going to help me have really nice shapes so I can teach the student shapes. So if you didn't notice, what's happening is it's taking my imperfect shape and cleaning it up and curving those lines and straightening those lines and creating a nice shape. But it's awesome when also you just want to do a quick, let's say, T-chart. So when you just need those straight lines or you want to do a quick Venn diagram, the shape pen is really helpful. I know there's plenty of times where I just wanted to underline something and I get picked on by my students because the line is taking us all off guard. So the last thing I want to show you here in our pens is the magic pen. And I will admit that the magic pen is probably a favorite. My favorite, I think, honestly, my team's favorite, because it does so many things. So clicked my dynamic toolbar. I'm clicking the 3 dots to access all of my pens. And when I choose magic pen, and I'm going to do it in red, really thick so that you can see, I'm going to write on top of all this writing that I have here so that you can notice the difference of what happens when I'm using the magic pen. So if you're following my red ink, you'll notice that it's disappearing. So one of the features of your magic pen is that it has disappearing ink. So I like to use this when maybe I'm underlining or I'm trying to bring emphasis to something, but I don't want to have to erase it later. So I'm just writing it there so that kids can say, hey, I'm talking about this variable right here, but I don't have to erase it because it disappears. Have you heard of some other ways, Asha, that teachers use that disappearing ink feature?
Yep. So some teachers use disappearing ink just to make sure their students are paying attention. So they'll use it to write a secret message or a secret word of the day, and then the students are rewarded if they know what it is.
Nice. I like that idea as well. So Magic Pen doesn't only have disappearing ink, it has multiple features. So I'm going to open a website really quickly so that we can see another feature in action. So let's open this Newsella article, for example. So here, if I was to circle something, like let's say this is a sight word right here. When I draw a circle with this ink, it spotlights the area. So that means it makes everything around it dark and it brings focus to that one area on the screen. So I love that at the moment's time, at any teachable moment, when I'm the magic pen, all I have to do is draw a circle and I get that spotlight. The other thing that the magic pen does is if I draw a box across, it magnifies. So the magic pen does 3 things. It has disappearing ink. When you draw a circle, it spotlights. If you draw a box around your objects, it magnifies so that you can see it larger. So again, our pens, a lot of awesome things in there. Don't be afraid to explore Smart Ink. Just tap in that menu, click around, and you're going to find a lot of cool things. I showed you how to erase using your hands or a cloth. I also want to show you how to clear all the ink at once. If you look at the top corner of this sticky note here, or even if I was, if I was to put writing on my website here, there's a little symbol that pops up in the top right corner, and it's a baby pen. It's a mini version of my pen. So here's my big pen, there's my baby pen. That baby pen, when I click it, I can choose to capture all of my ink, which is one way to have a screenshot and take a picture of everything that I have here if I wanted to save it. But it also gives me an option as well to clear all the ink. So that's one way to clean up everything all at once if you don't want to wipe down all of that ink. Let's venture over to the next segment of our menu, which is the toolbox. So I'm going to switch over from pens to my toolbox, and we're going to check out a few pens here. I'm sorry, a few tools. The first tools you're going to be familiar with, it's the Spotlight tool that we saw with Magic Pen. Just here, when we select the Spotlight, it opens in the center, and if you want to move it around, put your finger on the black space and drag your finger and it moves around. So here, maybe we're learning about Zora Neale Hurston and we want to talk about where she grew up. And we have a map here and we want to be able to move it around the map for the students to let me know when I get to the area that describes where she grew up. So I love the Spotlight for like discovery. So not only bringing focus to an area, but just having discovery moments with your students. Also, if I need to resize this circle, I just grab the line. So I touch the point where the outline of the circle and I drag it and that'll allow me to reshape it. So that's the Spotlight tool. We also have the magnifier. Again, that's what you saw with the Magic Ink. And it works the same way. If you need to move it around, click outside of the box and just drag your finger. If you need to resize it, click the outline and drag. And there's also an option to drag here to go even deeper into zooming in. The next tool I like to highlight is the screen shade. If you look at the icon, it might remind you of a projector screen because it mimics the idea where many teachers, where when they had their projector screen and their whiteboard behind, might have things written on that whiteboard and we just use the projector screen to cover it up and reveal it when we're ready. So that's what this does. It covers our content to where we can reveal it when it's time to display to our students. One benefit though is that we don't have to just reveal content from the bottom anymore. We can do this from any direction. So from the top, I can read a problem line by line, or if I've pre-filled out a math problem, we can reveal how the solution works step by step. Also from the side, maybe I want to cover up one column of an article and not the other. So the screen shade allows you to display information or cover information in multiple directions. And one little Easter egg is that if you tap the middle, the color changes. So the last tool that I think I'm going to highlight in the toolbox is actually on the bottom right. Other tools in here, there's a screen capture tool, which if you're familiar with screen capturing, that means that you take a picture of what's here on the screen. And there's also a text conversion tool. This stamp tool is your last one, and it opens up some stamp and a stamp pad. So you would select your stamp, and then you just click or tap your pen on the screen where you want to put that stamp. And there's some that we can use here for correction, marking things right or wrong, or even like these shapes. I've seen great ideas where teachers kind of use this as an incentive throughout the day. The students, as they're paying attention or they collaborate or they're showing different class values, they get more smiley faces. But the stamp pad is really cute, a lot of fun. But I hope you notice that plus sign. It's the same plus sign we saw with the Creative Pen. And that means that it takes us to our files, to where in our files, we can save photos and we can add our own stamps to our stamp pads. So I've seen some very powerful uses of this in your school district. So I've seen teachers who save pictures and upload them to their stamp pad of math symbols such as the plus sign, subtraction, multiplication. And when we're reading a word problem, the teacher and the students, they identify, okay, this sentence is telling me to do what? And they put a stamp there. Or when we're reading text, maybe teachers have the word supporting detail saved and they stamp a supporting detail. or they have verb or noun. So I've seen a lot of great instructional use of using the stamps as quick ways to identify different things within different content areas. So we've went over how in Smart Ink we have our pens, we have a toolbox. Let's talk about this last segment here, which is our favorites. In your favorites, at first it's empty, but anything that you think that you might want easy access to, you add it to your favorites and it's going to make using Smart Ink much quicker. So to add something to my favorites, I click the plus sign. Asha, do you have a favorite that you want me to add into here?
Magic pen.
Magic pen, I guessed it, I knew. So plus sign, if I want to add the magic pen, I have the option between pen, stamp, and tool. The magic pen is a pen, so I choose pen. And here I search for the magic pen. I use it recently, so it's my third option. If you don't see the pen you're looking for, remember you just click the 3 dots. So magic pen, and what color would you like it?
Pink.
Pink? Oh, you're making me work. That's pink enough. There we go. So
I'll take it.
when you're adding it to your favorites, you choose the pen, you choose the color, you choose the thickness, and then you add it. So let's do that again. I'm going to add a pen. I'm going to do a regular pen in black, but I'm going to do a dashed line with the arrow. Add that to my favorites. Again, plus sign. I can add a stamp here. Plus sign. I can choose a tool. I'm going to go with the screen shade. I'm going to do one last thing here. Everyone needs, maybe just a regular pen or a highlighter. So I'm going to do the highlighter. Now that I have these 5 things added to my favorites, when I tap the menu and I make it smaller, I hope you see now that I have those favorite objects around the menu. So I don't have to tap into the menu to go from being a magic pen to being my dash pen here that I saved, to being a stamp, to going and being a screen shade. So those things are easily accessible. So you can take your time and decide what your favorites are, but please save some in there because it's going to make the clicks less. And also, if you have your students modeling and you tell them, we use a red pen for this, a blue pen for that, a highlighter for this, why not save those pens around your favorites so that it's easy for you to demonstrate and model with your students? To edit, you just click the star again. You can choose edit, and I can delete a favorite. Or if I realize with this pen I didn't want it to be dashed, there's an option here to customize it where I can change it to be however I intended for it to be. Okay, so editing your favorites is really simple by just selecting edit. So Asha also mentioned, in addition to showing you how Smart Ink works, I'm going to show you how Smart Ink Document Viewer works. So Smart Ink is your ability to write all over your computer. We wrote on a sticky note. Right now, we're writing on Google Chrome. I want to show you how to write on your PDFs and one benefits of writing on PDFs. So right now, I'm on a long article, and if I was to highlight this line and I needed to scroll, you're going to notice that it doesn't stick. It sticks to this tab. It sticks on the Chrome browser, but it doesn't stick to the words. And that's because this is the internet and I can't edit the internet. One way around this is if you convert anything that you're working with into a PDF with Smart Ink Document Viewer, we can give you the power to make your annotations stick and for you to actually be able to edit that document with Smart Ink. So to demonstrate this, I have that same Newsella article up right here, but I have it open in Smart Ink Document Viewer. And I'm going to highlight this line, and now you can see that it sticks. So one little technical step that we need to do together is we need to change our default PDF viewer. Your PDFs currently open up in something called Microsoft Edge. And when I go to write with Smart Ink here, you'll notice that it's not working. So if you want to use the same features of Smart Ink that you're accustomed to on your PDFs, you change your computer settings so that they automatically open up in Smart Ink Document Viewer. So I'm going to show you those settings, but I do want to note that we have a document that walks you through those steps. So if you don't get the steps the first time, you can have that document up and you can read the steps, or you can watch this recording and we have a video that's all about just doing your changing your computer settings. So again, Smart Ink Document Viewer, when I write here and I scroll, it sticks. I also want to point out that I'm able to zoom. You can use the features that you're used to on your smartphones to like pinch and zoom and to zoom in or out. If you're having difficulties with that, on the left-hand side of Smart Ink Document Viewer, you have a lot of options such as rotating or a button here that you can use to zoom. And last but not least, I want to point out the Save option. The Save option looks like a floppy disk. It's the second button, and it allows you to save those annotations on this document. To maintain a blank copy, I always recommend that you rename this, whether it's, document period 1, period 2, so that you still have your blank copy. So I'm going to close out of this and I want to show you how to change those settings. So I'm going to demo this one time, but you'll have the resources to watch this over and over until you're able to accomplish it. And once you change the setting once, you shouldn't have to do it again for a while. So you go into your computer and you go into your file folder. It's the manila folder that's most likely pinned on the bottom of your screen. And you locate a PDF. It might be in your documents, it might be on your desktop. For me, I have a PDF here on my downloads. So you locate any PDF and you right click. To right click on a smartboard using the touch feature, you hold your finger there until that box comes up, and that's how you right click. You also can use the wireless keyboard to right click in the way that you may be accustomed to. I'm going all the way down to the bottom where I can change my properties. I'm going to select properties, and now it reads that anytime I have a PDF type file that it opens in Microsoft Edge. I want to change this, so I'm going to select change, and I'm going to change it so that I want my PDF files to open in Smart Ink Document Viewer. Once I choose Smart Ink Document Viewer, I select OK, apply, then OK. So now you see I had 2 PDFs here, but it changed the settings, or the icon changed here now on both of them. So even when I open up this second PDF now, it's going to open up in Smart Ink Document Viewer. So guys, I hope you got to see a lot of cool things that you could do on your smartboard using Smart Ink and using Smart Ink Document Viewer. With this, you can fill out and model projects with your students. You can create answer keys. There's just so many things that you can do. But I want to make sure that you understand how to utilize these features in today's times where you're teaching students that are in person and also virtually. So I'm going to pass it over to Asha so she can discuss the setup of how to make sure that everyone, all students, get to be involved in this enhanced experience.
Awesome. Thank you for that in-depth demonstration, Akea. As Akea mentioned, Smart Ink and Smart Ink Document Viewer can be very powerful for instruction, especially during these times when you're trying to reach your students that you have in your classroom as well as those that are attending virtually. So at this point in the webinar, we're going to talk about different ways that you can set up your classroom to meet the needs of your students. And the first one I'm going to share with you is what we like to call the simple solution. And essentially, all it is you getting a web camera and positioning it in a way that allows your students to see you in your teaching area. So you can see here with this image, what you will need to do is join Google Meet from a device other than your smart panel. Okay, so instead of signing into your Google Meet from your smart panel, you would instead sign in using your teacher computer. Now, with your teacher computer, you're going to want to turn it so that you're able to see the monitor from your teaching area. That way you can monitor your students. And with your students being here on the teacher desktop, you are not monitoring them on the panel. They will not be on your panel. They will be on your teacher desktop. Once you have your computer set up, you need to reach out to your school tech and have them detach the web camera from your smart panel. And that web camera will get plugged in to a USB port on your teacher desktop. Now that the web camera is no longer attached to the smart panel, you're able to position it in a way that will allow your students to see you in your teaching area while working on your smart panel. Now, another option for this, in the event that maybe you don't have a school tech, or maybe your tech is busy helping other teachers, is that you can also utilize a Chromebook. Okay, so the simple solution for simultaneous teaching is for you to get a web camera and position it in a way that allows your students to see you working at your smartboard. Now, if you're interested in kicking it up a notch and taking it to another level, we have what we like to call Google Meet times 2. And so for this one, not only are you signed into Google Meet on your teacher desktop or another device, but you're also signed into Google Meet on your smart panel. Okay. Now, with this setup, your students are given the ultimate viewing experience because they're able to see the annotations that you make on your screen crystal clear. So if you think back to when Akea was demoing Smart Ink for us, we were able to see what she was doing very clearly because she was sharing her screen with us. This is what this setup will allow for you to do with your students. So you sign in on 2 devices. And with the 2 sign-ins, your students will be able to see you while you teach, and you'll also be able to actively monitor them on your second device. So let's talk about how you get that set up. Before we talk about how you get that set up, we have this image here that shows you what it looks like from a student's view. So you can see they're able to see the teacher here in the corner, and then over on the left-hand side, they're able to see the annotations that you're making on your screen. To get this set up, you need to log in to your Smart Panel computer. So just like you did for today's webinar, to access Smart Ink, you're going to log into that computer using your keyboard. And once you're logged in to the Smart Panel computer, you're going to want to mute your speaker. Now, just as a general rule of thumb, you don't want sound coming out of 2 sources, because if that happens, then you usually end up getting feedback. So typically you'll have your speakers on your Smart Panel muted. In the event that you are playing a video, though, you'll probably want to unmute those speakers and instead mute the speakers on your second device. Once you are signed in, you want to access Google Chrome and log into Google Meet. Once you're logged into that Meet, turn off your video and microphone, because you're not going to be using those from your smart panel. Instead, you'll be using them from your second device. Okay, so once you have that turned off, now you're ready to get your second device set up. So step 3 is to log in and join Google Meet from a second device. And ideally, you want that second device to have a camera. So if you have access to a Chromebook, that would be great. And from that second device, you're going to turn on the camera and microphone and then join the Google Meet. So from this device, you will be monitoring your students, but from your panel, you'll be doing your teaching. Once you have both of your devices in the Google Meet, on the second device, you're going to change the layout. To do so, you're going to select Options, then change Layout, and choose the tiled option. That's going to allow you to see your students during class. And then on your smart panel, as you're teaching, once you get to a point where you want your students to see what you're doing on your screen, you will choose the option to present your screen. Now, you can either present your entire screen, or you can present just the Chrome tab. If you present your entire screen, that allows you to seamlessly move between windows on your screen. However, it does not allow for audio to transmit. If you wanted to show your students a video or maybe a website that has sound, you would want to select the option that allows you to share through a Chrome tab. Okay, so again, if you want to kind of kick it up a notch and take it to the next level, you are encouraged to sign into Google Meet from 2 devices, your smart panel as well as a second device, most likely a Chromebook. And with that signing in of 2 devices, you're able to share your screen on your smart panel to give your students a crystal clear view. So I know we showcased a lot and we gave you a lot of information. So just to recap, in today's webinar, we were sharing with you how you can enhance your blended learning environment. And one way you can do that is by incorporating Smart Ink when you're pulling up your passages or going over websites. Use those tools to really highlight features that you want to point out to your students. In addition to using Smart Ink Document Viewer is a great resource when you want to annotate PDFs and have that ink stay in place. Remember, you're also able to save those annotations so that way you can then share them with your students to refer to later. When you are considering how to show your students in front of you, as well as your students that are joining you virtually, you in your entire teaching area, one simple way to do that is just to position a camera in a way that captures you at your smart panel. When you're ready to take it to the next level, we encourage you to join Google Meet from your smart panel and a second device. And with you signed in on 2 devices, you're able to share your smart panel screen with your students. That way they're able to see any annotations you make while teaching.
Asha, I'd like to reiterate just, the experience of being able to share this with students no matter where they are. So from you all as a teacher standpoint, you have many ways that you can do this. Again, really simple way, take one device, join the Google Meet and point it towards your teaching area, whether that's the Chromebook or the teacher computer with the webcam on it. That's one simple way. And with our leveled up way of the Google Meet ×2, one tip I like to offer is, since you're using your smart panel as your presentation tool, have up already all the websites and things that you want to pull up. So during my presentation today, I knew I wanted to use that Newsella article, so I already had that up. Have all those things up before you start the meet, and then you just join on 2 devices. So I'm really excited that we've been able to share not only how to use our tools and the experience of them, but how to make them apply in today's learning environment.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Akea. And so to help you out with all that we've shared with you today, of course, we have some resources for you. There's some videos here to help you out with Smart Ink. There's also a stepper that shows you exactly how to use, or rather change, Smart Ink Document Viewer so that it's your default PDF viewer, similar to what Akea modeled for us earlier. And then we also have resources that illustrate how you can use Smart Ink with Google Meet, and then the recommendations from the district on how you can set up your classroom for blended learning. Now that we've showcased some tools and given you some ideas for how you can set up your classroom, we hope you're ready to get blended. And so here we have a Smart Blend challenge, and we're asking that you use Smart Ink or Smart Ink Document Viewer for simultaneous teaching. And once you do so, please take a picture of your work and feel free to share it with us on Google Currents or on Twitter. We have some handles included here, and I know EdTech also has a handle that they will share with you all. In addition to the handles, we also have the hashtag #SmartChampion. Now, I hope you will join us next webinar Wednesday. Next week's webinar is focused, or titled rather, Smart for All, and it will share with you how you can use our smart tools to reach your ESC students. So we hope to see you there. And then, John,
Awesome.
I don't know if there are any questions lingering in the chat.
I haven't seen any that haven't gone unanswered, but great job. Thank you so much. It's amazing how much is in that little tiny circle pen there that so many people don't realize all the options. So I thought you guys went over a great way of explaining all the different great options for just to try to make it a little bit more fun when you're working on the boards. And also for those of you watching the recording or live now, don't hesitate to come back and rewatch that section on how to set up your classroom. I know we've gotten a lot of questions about what happens when you have 2 devices. You keep getting this weird feedback and audio, and it doesn't stop. And so Asha did a great job explaining about having to mute the right one and have one system for audio and microphone. So please feel free to rewatch that section to set up your classroom the best way for your students, and make sure that everyone can get involved and actually see the annotations clearly when they're on the Google Meet especially. So thank you, ladies, a lot. I'll bring you guys back up in just 1 minute after we finish a little bit more housekeeping. And so with that, I just want to say thank you all for joining us. We do have office hours every Tuesday from 2:30 to 3:30. So basically all you do is come in anytime between 2:30 and 3:30, and there'll be a group of ed tech people there. There's usually a smart person in there, and ask your question. And if we can't figure out what the answer is, we will find someone who knows the answer. So that is every Tuesday from 2:30 to 3:30. And to get there, all you have to do is go to our website, which is edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org, and we'll have a calendar listed right underneath of the top section, and it will allow you to click and join in our office hours. We have another live stream tomorrow. This is a great live stream because No Red Ink actually has given a great thing to all of our trailblazers. So we're going to do an overview and getting started with No Red Ink, which is for our trailblazers. It's open to anyone, but our trailblazers actually got a year subscription to this to try it out this year and use it with their students. So we're going to do a getting started video with that tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Again, the link is on our website, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. And again, we'll be here live at 3 o'clock tomorrow. And so with that, on behalf of the training team and the entire educational technology team as a whole, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I will bring up my two friends again, Akea and Asha, and give them the last word. Ladies, go ahead.
Thanks again for spending this time with us. We hope that you walked away with some ideas of how you can use Smart Ink and Smart Ink documents to enhance your blended learning environment.
Thanks, Asha, for that great outro. Now I feel like all I have to say is, guys, thanks for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful learning experience and teaching experience.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.